Welcome to the third week of our online lessons. My beloved seventh graders, this is your music class. Now, this week we shall be doing something new. I want you to call up two or three of your classmates and inquire from them if they are actually participating in our online activity. Encourage them so that they will learn like you. Hmm? Okay. So, having said that, let's quickly move into what we shall be doing this week. Remember, in the first week, we did music, folk music, and it was all about the Nigerian and the Western folk music, which we listed some of Nigerian folk music and some of Western folk music, and we talked about what is folk music. Now, after folk music, we did elements of drama elements of drama, where we talked about the Greek philosopher Aristotle and some elements he posed on us. There were six, remember? And after that, we treated other elements too. Now, this week, we shall be treating scales. Scales, the definition and kinds of scales. This week, being the week 3, we shall be discussing scales and we shall be focusing on the definition and kinds of scales. Don't forget, we have several kinds of scales, but we shall be limiting ourselves to just two. Okay, at the end of these lessons, the student should be able to 1. Define scale. 2. State two kinds of scales. 3. Describe diatonic and chromatic scale. Now let me repeat this. At the end of the lesson, you should be able to you should be able to define scale. You should also be able to state the two kinds of scale. Then finally, you should be able to describe what a diatonic scale looks like and what a chromatic scale looks like. Okay, I would want you to pay attention now. On the slide, the one that is being shown, if you observe, you're going to see that it is a piano. It is a piano. Yes, look at it carefully. You're going to understand that it is a piano. Now, from the first key, from the first white key here, from the first white key, which is C, just count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. From the first Y key to the 8th note is from C to C, from C to C, and it could be Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Ti, Do. Now, if you start from that C again and move to the next 8th note, that is what it's going to sound like. So I want you to know that is from C to C. Okay. The next diagram tries to tell you what it looks like too. Just tries to tell you that the C to C as shown in the keyboard. So if you see it's a C major scale, the first one there is a C major scale and it shows you the notes that is C major scale. So if you were to play D major scale, this is what it looks like. Hmm? Okay. But I would want us to put more of our attention on the C major scale. The C major scale. Okay. Now you see you have to climb from the C to the C and from the C to the C. Okay. So let's go down to the next slide and see what we are to learn today. Definition of scale. Definition of scale. Now, if we look at the keyboard above, if we look at the keyboard above, look at it once more. If you look at it, the keyboard above, look at it once more. Let's go back. If you look at the keyboard above, we shall notice that if we play the white keys from C to C, remember from the first white note on the keyboard to the eighth one, it gives an impression of climbing a ladder. Remember, we said something like C, that's Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Ti, Do. It gives an impression of climbing a ladder. Therefore, the term scale is defined as a ladder of notes moving upwards or downwards in an alphabetical order from a note to its octave. Let me take that again. The term scale is defined as a ladder of notes moving upwards or downwards in an alphabetical order from a note to its octave. Now, let's listen to this. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Alphabetically, it is moving upwards. Now, let's see this. Do, ti, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do. Alphabetically, it has also moved downwards. So, in the simple term, it just tells us that a scale is defined as a ladder of notes moving upwards or downwards in an alphabetical order from a note to its octave. Remember, we talked about moving from C to the next C, the eighth note, which is the next C. So I believe you understand what is a scale. What is a scale? The term scale is defined as a ladder of notes moving upwards or downwards in an alphabetical order from a note to its octave. So it could also be D. It could also be D. It could also be D. You start from here. D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D. Then you come down. It's also going to spell the same thing. Okay. So having said that, I'm sure you understand what we're trying to talk about now. So I believe we all understand what a scale is. Okay, let's check out the types of scale. Types of scale. We shall be discussing two types of scale, and the first one is the diatonic scale, and the second one is the chromatic scale. We shall be discussing two types of scales. The first one is the diatonic scale, and the next one is the chromatic scale. Let's look at the diatonic scale. The diatonic scale consists of 8 notes. 8 notes, that's 8 letters. The eighth being the repetition of the first note. Take for example, Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Ti, Do. Remember, we started with Do and the other Do, so they are the same thing. It is a repetition of the same Do, like C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. So the C is the same thing as C. The only difference is that they are in a different octave. So that's why we say that the diatonic scale consists of 8 notes or 8 letters. The eighth being the repetition of the first note. Now, tone intervals between all other notes except third and fourth, seventh and eighth. Now, if you notice as you move do, re, mi, fa, between mi, fa is a semitone. Sol, la, ti, do, between ti, do is a semitone. Hope you saw it on the keyboard. You're going to find that between mi, fa, and ti, do, there's no black note on top. Between mi, fa, and ti, do, there is no black note on top. There is no black note on top. Okay, look at the first note is C, and there's a black note here. D, and there's a black note here. E, which is the mi and fa, there is no black note. Now this spells out the semitone. This between these ones there is no black notes. Then the next one, F, there's a black note. G, there's a black note. That's do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti. Now between C, D, E, F, there's no black note. G, A, B. Between B and C now, there's no black note again. So you see, between E and F is a semitone. Between B and C is a semitone. So that's what we're trying to tell you about here. That in a diatonic scale, in a diatonic scale, in a diatonic scale, which is in a diatonic scale, you see there is a semitone between the third and fourth, and the seventh and eighth. Okay, let's move to chromatic scale. Chromatic scale. A chromatic scale moves in semitones. It contains 13 notes, including all the degrees and semitones. A semitone is a half step, while a tone is a full step. A tone consists of two semitones. I'm sure we understand that. A tone consists of two semitones, just like the example we made in the diatonic scale. Just like the example we made in the diatonic scale. The chromatic scale is a very funny looking scale. It moves in semitones. For example, let's go back to the keyboard and see. Let's go back to the keyboard and see. So if you're playing a chromatic note, it's going to, you press the white note, press the black note, press the white note, press the black note. Then press the next one, press the black one, press the next one, press the black one. It moves in semitones. 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 That it was trying to tell us. Okay. I'm going to attach an audio to this presentation for you to see how a chromatic note, how the chromatic note sounds, how the chromatic note sounds. So I want you to see it again. Chromatic scale moves in semitones. It contains 13 notes, unlike the diatonic scale that is made up of 8 notes. The chromatic scale consists of 13 notes, include all the degrees and semitones. Remember, a semitone is a half step, while a tone is a full step. A tone consists of two semitones. Two semitones. Okay, let's have a quick recap of what we just learned. We learned what a scale is. What is a scale? We learned of the two kinds of scale. which is the diatonic and the chromatic. And finally, we learned what the diatonic scale is. Hmm? We learned what the diatonic scale is, so you should be able to describe what a diatonic scale is. We also learned what the chromatic scale is and their features. You should be able to describe them, and know the basic difference between both of them. Thank you. Okay, I want to call on all of us to try our best and continue to stay safe. Continue to come online during the week, attend your music classes, and you can ask questions thereof. Next week I will be giving out my WhatsApp number so that if you have any further questions, you can ask me, call on my attention so that we can talk about it. Until then, please, I want you to stay safe, write your you should try and do your assignments and your classwork. Thank you.